Reporting from Shanghai, China. I have to be careful. If the authorities even suspected that I'm going to reveal certain facts in this video, there would be hell to pay. I could be arrested and deported, or worse, have to do serious prison time. I am only willing to take that risk because what I'm about to say is absolutely essential to your survival, to your financial survival. Wise men have predicted the developments I'm talking about for centuries. 200 years ago, Napoleon warned, "When China wakes, it will shake the world." Truer words were never spoken. China has awakened, and now it's about to shake the world to its foundations, starting with the United States. This is the Shanghai World Financial Center. It's the tallest skyscraper in China, 101 floors. It took 11 years to complete. It is also home to China's largest banks, insurance companies, and its financial ratings agencies. But as we're about to see, this is much more than just an office building. It is also ground zero for the single greatest economic triumph in China's history. But for Americans, it's about to become an icon, the symbol of the most catastrophic event in our nation's financial history. An event that will render everything you think you know about our government, about our economy, and about investing obsolete. I've created a special presentation to give you the uncensored facts, facts that the U.S. media won't report, and to help you prepare while there's still time. Plus, if you take the steps I recommend in my presentation, you can make quite a bit of money in the process. Let's begin that presentation now.
Once again, this is Larry Edelson. You may have seen me in Forbes or on Bloomberg, CBS MarketWatch, CNBC, or another major financial program or publication. Or perhaps you've seen my forecasts and recommendations on the Money and Markets website or in my own e-zine, Uncommon Wisdom. In my 33 years in finance, I have managed several large investment funds and founded my own brokerage and money management firm with offices in New York, Hamburg, Dusseldorf, Vienna, and Osaka, Japan. I live here in Asia. My home is a short flight from Shanghai. I also work here. I use a lot of what I learn about China and the rest of Asia to help thousands of people all over the world make better financial decisions. Plus, as a financial guide for hundreds of thousands of private investors, I've become well known for accurately warning them of major turns in the markets well in advance. I accurately warned my readers of the stock market crash of 1987 and the rally that followed, the bursting of the tech stock bubble in 2000 that cost U.S. investors an estimated $6.5 trillion in losses, and the 2007 collapse in U.S. stocks that drove the S&P 500 56% lower. I also nailed the bottom of gold prices at $255 in 1999 and the bull market that has taken the yellow metal to well over $1,800 per ounce so far. In June of 2004, I warned that the price of oil would start a rocket ride higher from $38 a barrel to well over $100 a barrel, and a gallon of gas to near $4. Now I have a truly shocking forecast for you. It is by far the most alarming warning I have ever issued. It is so disturbing, in fact, that most people who view this video will simply refuse to believe it. But I must warn you, ignoring this warning will have consequences, and those consequences will be catastrophic for millions of Americans. On the other hand, every crisis creates great opportunities, and this one is no exception. Because in terms of its sheer power to create wealth, the event I'm talking about dwarfs the Industrial Revolution that created hundreds of millionaires at the beginning of the 20th century. It towers miles above the computer, internet, and technology revolutions that created thousands of millionaires and hundreds of billionaires in the 1990s. It's already creating the greatest explosion of wealth in the history of mankind. At its core, though, the story I'm about to tell you is one of betrayal, the cruelest, most callous financial treachery in our nation's 236-year history. It's a story that's so shocking, nobody in the U.S. media has dared to report it. I have uncovered compelling evidence that the Chinese government is conspiring with Washington, D.C. to impoverish you and sentence your children and your grandchildren to lives of financial servitude. Now, please don't misunderstand. I'm not a political man, and this is not a political video. It's not about Democrats or Republicans or who should win the U.S. elections in November. I am a financial and investment analyst, and as such, my only allegiance is to my family and to the individual investors I help. I created this video for one simple reason: to give you the truth you need to protect your home, your savings, your investments, and your retirement from the single greatest economic crisis in our nation's history. In this video, I will show you exactly why Beijing and Washington are working together to bankrupt you. I will show you how to protect yourself and your family from their scheme to destroy your wealth. And I will tell you about the 4 kinds of investments I believe will double your money, then double it yet again in 2012 and beyond. Because in finance, as in life, the best defense is a strong offense. Everybody knows that China is on the move. Even despite the recent global slowdown, and despite what the naysayers may try to tell you, China's economy is still growing more than 7 times faster than America's is. But what most Americans do not know, what our media steadfastly refuses to admit, is that China is already so rich it can now dictate economic policy to the world, even to the United States of America. I know, it's hard to believe, especially since many have been saying that China's economic explosion is over. But consider the shocking report that Yahoo Finance recently posted, and I quote, "The International Monetary Fund has just dropped a bombshell, and nobody noticed. For the first time, the international organization has set a date for the moment when the age of America will end and the U.S. economy will be overtaken by that of China. According to the International Monetary Fund, by 2016, the United States will no longer be the world's #1 economic power. According to the IMF, China will be richer than America in less than 5 years. But according to the prestigious Peterson Institute, and based on data just published by the University of Pennsylvania, the IMF is wrong. The Chinese economy will not surpass America's by 2016, nor will it happen in 2017 or even in 2020 for that matter. Peterson and the University of Pennsylvania say China is already the world's #1 economic power, and the thing is, they proved it. These 2 highly respected institutions just presented irrefutable proof that in real terms, when you adjust for the domestic purchasing power of respective currencies, the U.S. economy produced goods and services valued at $14.6 trillion in 2010, but China's gross domestic product soared to $14.8 trillion. In other words, China's economy is already larger than America's. And what's worse, the United States is falling farther behind every day. According to the official figures from both Washington and Beijing, the U.S. economy grew about 1.7% in 2011. China's economy grew 9.2%. That's more than 7.5 times faster, enough to nearly double the size of China's already massive economy once each decade. And if you get to know a little bit more about both nations, China's burgeoning economic power becomes even more unsettling. Because the fact is, Beijing has become so powerful, it can now dictate economic policy to the United States. The Beijing government has almost no debt, but Washington has nearly $145 trillion in debt and obligations. China has $3.2 trillion in cash, and its cash reserves are growing ever larger month after month. But Washington has almost no cash on hand and has to borrow nearly half of every dollar it spends, much of it from China. China's total tax revenues are up nearly 30% from a year ago, but Washington's tax revenues are dramatically down due to the sluggish U.S. economy. The U.S. has about 160 million workers. China has 810 million workers, more than 5 times more than the United States. 97% of all Chinese workers are employed, but 14 million U.S. workers are either unemployed or underemployed. In China's urban areas, wages rose 7.6% in 2011, and the increase was about double that in rural areas. Meanwhile, inflation-adjusted wages for U.S. workers dropped 1.7%. The investment facts are even more startling. Securities valued at more than $6 trillion trade on the Chinese exchanges every day, and that number is growing by leaps and bounds. China enjoys the largest foreign capital inflows of any nation on earth, surpassing the United States as the world's favorite place to invest. China is now the world's #1 mine operator, its #1 car maker, its #1 manufacturer, its #1 exporter. You really have to see China to believe what's happening here. I used to think New York and Beverly Hills were the world's pinnacle for high-end shopping. But here in Shanghai, the Nanjing Road shopping district puts them to shame. So does the new Shanghai shopping city here in the Pudong Financial District. And these are only 2 of 8 massive world-class, state-of-the-art shopping districts in this one city alone. I once believed that Las Vegas topped the world when it came to luxury hotels and entertainment. But even Vegas's biggest and best can't hold a candle to the world's largest hotels and casinos in Macau. I thought that Palm Beach's mansions and posh housing communities were the ultimate, but they pale in comparison to the massive luxury housing developments and neighborhoods filled with extravagant Western-style mansions here in Shanghai. Any way you look at it, China is already the nation on the way up, while sadly, the U.S. is the nation on the way out. I just read a study by the Program for International Student Assessment that ranked Chinese students #1 in the world. American students were ranked 14th. China's Tianhe 1A supercomputer is the fastest in the world, capable of processing more than 2.5 thousand trillion calculations per second. American technicians don't even know how that kind of speed could be possible. And while the U.S. is winding down its space program, China is preparing to put a man on the moon. And when you look at China's military, the contrast between the two nations gets downright scary. China has the largest army in the world, 2.2 million active-duty military personnel, 600,000 more than America has. And while the U.S. is cutting its military expenditures, China has increased military spending every year for more than 20 years and is still boosting it by an average of 11.8% per year.